Hello there. In today's live video, we're going to talk about stuckness. Why are you stuck as an advanced learner of English? In this video, we're going to look at the reasons why advanced level students get stuck. I'm going to show you very specific examples of what people do and why they get stuck, why they are stuck, and what you can do to get yourself unstuck if you feel that you're not progressing, you're not moving forward. Here's where we should begin. I'm looking at 4 primary reasons for why people get stuck in their learning process. Reason number 1, people who are stuck continue doing the same thing over and over again because they are convinced that whatever they're doing is working for them. That's the only reason why they continue doing that thing. If you want to help yourself, ask yourself this question: what do I believe is good for me? What do I keep doing because I believe it's something that's working for me, because I'm convinced it's working? For some people, it's working with flashcards. For someone, it's memorizing words. For somebody else, it's watching a Netflix show every evening. They are convinced that this routine is working. They are convinced that if they take private classes 3 times a week, it's something that's helping them to move forward. It's something that's helping them to speak better. But in reality, we all know that people who are not attentive to their practice routine, or people who do a lot, who seem to be doing a lot, but they don't do anything specific, they just do a lot, their results are not always as great as they want them to be. When you ask yourself, what is it that I keep doing because I'm convinced it's working for me, you will have an opportunity to stop doing the thing that is no longer important or that no longer works. I am somebody who finds it very difficult to learn from a textbook. I find it very difficult to trust one teacher. If I choose a teacher, if I choose to work with someone, of course I will listen to her. Of course I will do the exercises that this person recommends. But I will still check the information that I receive from that person. I'm going to filter the information through the prism of my own experience. I'm going to go and ask other people. I'm going to consult the source. And to me, the source is all the native speakers that speak English from birth. And I am absolutely convinced that if you want to achieve native-like fluency, if you want to learn to speak with clarity, if you want to learn to use the English language to build better relationships with people, and I'm talking about all kinds of relationships, social relationships, personal relationships, business relationships, romantic relationships. If you need English to learn to understand others and to communicate in such a way that you can express yourself and help other people hear and understand you, then you probably need to stop looking for a textbook. Or you probably need to stop looking for one teacher who can teach you all these skills. If you stop looking for one person who can teach you everything, you will stop waiting to be taught. And instead, you will start looking for opportunities to learn. Because when you can learn, everything in existence becomes your teacher. You can learn from any conversation, any quote you see online, any page, any random page that you open in any book. You can learn from children in the playground. You can learn from anything, from any situation. Everything in existence becomes your teacher. My point is that a lot of people get stuck because they keep doing the same thing, meaning they use the same strategy to improve their English skills. Once you have reached upper intermediate or intermediate, you have to reverse the strategy. To achieve that level, let's say if you're a complete beginner or a pre-intermediate level student, you need guidance, you need textbooks, you need to increase your vocabulary, you need to learn to read, you need to learn to say basic things, you need to learn to listen. And textbooks are great here. You need to understand how the language works. The strategy that you choose for yourself to get to more advanced levels works. Once you get to that level where you no longer find it fun to work with textbooks, and you understand that your tasks are now slightly different. You have real life tasks ahead of you, and you no longer want to work with a textbook because it doesn't serve the purpose anymore. So once you achieve this level, you need to stop looking for one teacher who will teach you everything. One teacher can show you how to work with a book. You need to learn to work with people, practice with people, and learn from people. What becomes more important at this point is practice, deliberate, focused practice, and more importantly, with other people who practice the same thing. Practice routine and feedback. These are the two most important things for somebody who wants to move forward with their English skills. That's why if you are stuck, maybe the question you want to ask yourself is this: am I studying English or am I practicing my English skills? What can change your perspective on learning is this simple question or a sentence. A sentence that I like to remember and read again and again when I feel stuck. And the sentence goes like this: instead of looking for ways to learn English, because that's the question people ask themselves or people around. How do I finally learn English? What do I need to do to learn English? Instead of looking for solutions to learn English, ask yourself this question: how can I practice my English? It's a totally different thing. How can you practice your English? People who are stuck say that they make a lot of mistakes. In reality, these people do not really make a million of different mistakes. The reality is that they make the same mistake a million times. They make the same mistakes over and over again in every sentence that they say. That's why it sounds like they make a lot of mistakes. And for these people, to learn to speak better means to unlearn many things that they remembered wrong, they learned wrong, or they memorized something that they didn't really understand back then. That's why to get unstuck in this situation, you need to practice being more attentive so that you can unlearn the things that no longer work for you, or the things that have never actually worked in the English language, but you failed to pay attention. Let me give you some examples. I'm going to look at some examples of real people's texts, and we're going to see together where the mistakes are. And first, I would like to show you the application of one student who applied for my free course, 9 Essential Skills to Achieve Native-like Fluency. And this is what she sent to me today. I'm going to read it for you out loud. Probably you're going to recognize yourself in this story. I have been learning English on my own for some years. I tried to create a personal space for self-learning for some years, but it had a little effect. I'm quoting, I'm reading exactly what the person wrote. Tried to explain why I had an idea that I was floundering in the endless social information, having no foothold or anything. I had no idea where to go, what to begin with, or what should I focus on. It was very depressing time. All my attempts to direct myself ended in procrastination and despair. Luckily, this time I got to know about your community of practice by chance, and I realized that it was the exact thing that I need. So I'm applying for your course, 9 Essential Skills to Achieve Native-like Fluency, and I'm sure that it will give me a necessary support and direction. Probably you recognize yourself in this situation. You have so much information about how to learn English, but you cannot make sense of it. This is exactly what this person is struggling with. I can't say that this is a lazy person. This person keeps looking. I cannot say that this is not a smart person. She's a very intelligent person. I have a video message from her, but I'm reading the transcript of the message to you. Now, I want to show you what this person might want to pay attention to get herself unstuck. And maybe you want to do the same. To have something you can work with, all you need to do is you need to create a piece of content. She created a video, and I'm looking at the transcript. You can record a video, you can record an audio, or you can write. If you write a piece of text, It will show me everything you need to work on. This is why writing is so powerful. And this is why my approach is based on having a practice routine and receiving human feedback. No algorithm can ever give you feedback like this. So let's look at some of the sentences. And it sounds like she might be making many mistakes, but in fact, it's one and the same mistake that she makes again and again. For example, she says, I have been learning English on my own for some years, and I tried to create a personal space for self-learning for some years. The first thing that I see or I hear is that for some years repeats at the end of both sentences. For some, I have been trying and I learned for some years. So these sentences sound similar in structure. Listen again. I have been learning English on my own for some years. I tried to create a personal space for some years. They sound the same. They communicate the same idea. However, sentence number 1 is in present perfect. The verb is in present perfect. And in the second sentence, the verb is in the past tense. She's kind of saying the same thing, but she chooses to express it using verbs in different forms. So to me, that's a bit strange. If you want to continue your idea, it would make sense here to continue speaking in present perfect. I've been learning English on my own. I would not say for some years. For a few years now. This is how I would correct it. Not for some years, for a few years now. Because you want to show the result. It's been a few years, and I've been learning English on my own for a few years now. Or for the last 2-3 years, I've been practicing or I've been learning English on my own. Try to remove words such as some from sentences like this because you want to be more specific. If you have a specific number, use it. If it's been 2, 3, 5 years, say the number. Some is a very vague concept. For somebody, some years is 7 years, 5 years, and for someone, it's 2-3 years. So, and then we can continue with the next sentence. Instead of I tried to create a personal, I've been trying. That sounds more natural, and that naturally continues this thought. I've been trying to create. Okay, and now I'm stuck because what I am reading is I tried to create a personal space for self-learning. How does it sound to you? A personal space for self-learning. The first thing that I want to check is if self-learning is actually a word. Do native speakers use the word self-learning? Let's see. Again, don't take my word for it. Check everything. Even if you work with a teacher, it's actually a lot of fun to check in with the source and to see if the words that you want to use actually exist in the English language. Self-learning, process and importance. There is a term, self-learning. If I look self-learning, definition, importance, and advantages, I found an article online, 7 steps to make self-learning effective for you and your goals. Well, that exists. Found different blog posts with the word self-learning. However, I want to check it in the dictionary. Is it actually a word? And that's what I recommend you do too. Even if you find it on Google, you still want to check the source. Is this a word? Well, Cambridge Dictionary doesn't know this word. Self-learning. Let's see if other dictionaries will have it. You know what? I cannot find it in any dictionary. Maybe you can. Go ahead and check. Maybe you will find it. It looks like it's a term. Now I want to understand if it would be correct to say to create a personal space for self-learning. She probably doesn't mean space as a countable noun. When somebody says, I need some space, it's uncountable. It's a concept. Or when somebody says, there is enough room in the car, it's a concept. We don't mean a room. We don't mean a bedroom or a living room. We just say, there is more room. There is room for everybody. Or we can say, I need space. There is a concept of personal space. And I think that's what she means here. I always ask myself, what image does a native speaker receive? When I say this sentence, what does a native speaker hear? Because I may have many different ideas about what I want to say, but a person will not necessarily receive what I want to show him. This is why if I look up the word combination personal space, the first thing that I see that is always used without the article, just as we said previously, personal space. And if I look it up in the dictionary, because this phrase is in the dictionary, it says the distance from another person at which one feels comfortable when talking to or being next to that other person. Personal space is the distance that you create from another person. Can you see now? That's why if you want to create personal space for self-learning, it sounds like you're trying to separate yourself from other people. And I do not think that she meant this. I really don't think that she meant isolating herself from other people or distancing herself from other people. I think she's trying to say, I've been trying to create self-learning routines. Let's listen to these two sentences one more time. This is the original. I have been learning English on my own for some years. I tried to create a personal space for self-learning for some years. And if we added them, and if we think, what would a native speaker hear, and what do we want them to hear? This is what these first two sentences can sound like. This is how I would change them to make my message more clear. Let me know how this sounds to you. I've been learning English on my own for a few years now. I've been trying to create personal self-learning routines. Actually, there's a comma there. That's not the full sentence. And then it says, but it had a little effect. The same problem. I see the article that's not supposed to be there. It had little effect. Again, we cannot say a little effect because effect is not countable. You cannot count it. It's not a thing. That's why I want to ask myself here, have I ever heard a native speaker say, it had little effect? Have you? A lot of times when people speak English or when people speak spontaneously, even if the people prepare their presentations and their speeches in English, they go with whatever words they have in mind and they never actually ask themselves, have I ever heard a native speaker say so? They know the translation of the word that they want to use. And they think that everybody has the same concept in mind. They think that everybody understands this word the same way. However, my suggestion and my recommendation, I'm very, very aggressive about it, I would even say. Always check in with the source. It had little effect. I'm seeing a message in the chat. Somebody says that you're a native English speaker, but you've been applying the same to your Spanish speaking skills. Absolutely. You can apply it to any language that you learn. I can say with confidence that this method, this system of exercises works with every European language. I cannot speak for Japanese, Korean, or Chinese simply because I do not understand how these languages work. I do not speak these languages. However, I'm very confident and I know from experience that it works for Spanish speakers. It works for people who learn Russian because I do have people who learn Russian using this method. It works for people who learn German because I personally learned German. I myself used the same method to improve my German skills. I have students whose first language is Portuguese, Spanish, Polish, Russian, German, Vietnamese. But these people who speak Vietnamese, they learn English. That's why they can use the same method. I'm not sure how it can be applied to learning Vietnamese. So again, here I have no experience, but it definitely works for all the European languages. So I'm Googling this. It had little effect. What I see is an idiom, to little effect, in the free dictionary, idioms.freedictionary.com. In an effective or lackluster way, achieving only a minimal result or amount of progress. So maybe this person that we're talking about could have said, I've been trying to create self-learning routines for some time, or for some years, but to little effect. Similar words, they sound very similar. It had little effect, But now we see that too little effect is actually an idiom that native speakers will understand. Let's continue looking. Maybe somebody does say it had little effect. What I see again is to little effect or to no effect in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. I've been trying to create self-learning routines, but to no effect. This sounds very natural, and a native speaker will instantly understand what you say. Or if you say, I've been trying to create self-learning routines, but to little effect. Let's keep looking. Maybe I'm wrong. I see more examples here. Had little effect. Not a lot, actually, but here's what I see. Yeah, I see more examples from fiction books. The warning had little effect. Listen to the context. The mistake that many learners do is that they find the exact word combination that they are looking for. They find it in a book, they find it online, and the first mistake is that they do not consider the source. If you find this word combination in a blog post written by a Spanish native speaker, don't take it as the correct answer, because this person is also learning English. We want to learn from native speakers. We want to look at the content created for and by native speakers. And the second mistake is that people disregard the context. They find this phrase and they forget to ask themselves, what is the context? Will this work for my context? For example, the warning had little effect. Standard fire suppressants had little effect. Obviously, their gesture had little effect. His endeavors had little effect. The pleading, however, had little effect. What do I see? When you look at how the language works, your job is to learn to identify the patterns. If I look at every single example here, what I see is that there is a subject and a verb. Something had little effect. The warning, fire suppressants, gesture, endeavors, pleading, something had little effect. And let's go back to our sentence. Do we see that the context is the same? And here the sentence goes like this. I've been trying to create personal self-learning routines, but, and there's no other subject, but it had little effect. She says it. It had little effect. It is the subject here. When I teach writing, I always encourage my students to ask themselves, what is it in my sentence? If we look at the sentence and we try to guess what it might mean, it looks like it stands for the whole thing. I tried to create personal space for self-learning for some years. It cannot express this. That's the wrong use of it. That's why it makes sense to either replace the subject or to continue with the idiom. I've been trying to create self-learning routines, but to no effect. The sentence sounds natural. It's easy to understand. Or you might replace it with a better subject. I try to create personal self-learning routines, but my efforts had little effect. Subject, verb. Can you see it? But my efforts had little effect. The mistake that this student here makes again and again in every sentence is that she doesn't see where her subject is and where her verb is. Sentence structure. Basic sentence structure. And of course, articles. That's the second thing that I see. What can she do to help herself get unstuck? Write more. This was a video message, as I said, and I'm looking at the transcript of her video message. Obviously, she recorded maybe she prepared, maybe she practiced, but obviously she didn't have a script when she recorded this voice message, and it's a fantastic exercise to speak without having a script in front of you, just like I'm doing right now. And that's why I do live videos, because I practice being spontaneous, and I want to improve my skill of being clear even when I am spontaneous. But what she can do to help herself improve her clarity and her sentence structure in her articles is to look at the transcript of what she said, or to write, to deliberately write, so that she can visualize her own thought process. Creative writing is one of the best exercises. You write and then you edit. This is what I just demonstrated. I edited the first 2 sentences to show you how you can transform those sentences so that they sound more natural and easier for native speakers to understand. So they become easier for native speakers to understand, and what they show you about your skills. And they show you exactly where you are stuck. Again, if we go back to the beginning of this live video, you are stuck most likely because you keep doing the things that you are convinced are working. You're convinced that whatever you're doing is working for you. She is convinced that this sentence structure works. She is convinced that the way she uses articles is how articles are supposed to be used. Maybe she's convinced that they're not important. Maybe she ignores them. Maybe she doesn't understand them, because lack of knowledge is also the reason why we don't use the information correctly, or why we can't apply the knowledge correctly. Based on what I see, I would recommend a practice routine where this person does exercises to practice articles for at least 2 weeks. This, not even exercises, I would say one exercise, one and the same exercise that will help her understand what articles mean and how they can add meaning to the nouns in the sentence, and how they can help the reader, because when you read a text, a sentence, and you read it with articles, they will help you as a reader to make sense of the information. You will understand if whatever is being talked about, you will understand if it's specific, if it's not specific, if it's important, if it's not important. They can give you information about the nouns that are used in the sentence. And I would show this person a few tools to edit her writing. If you are a community member, we go to the Space workshops. We have a workshop there, self-editing tools, how to self-correct your writing skills. And we have another video, all the self-correcting resources in one workshop. Go ahead and check this out. And find the tools. Well, you don't have to find them. They're all there for you. Pick the tools that you need the most and that will work for you and for your purpose. The reason why many learners are stuck is that they never do the self-correction work. They are convinced that this is working. And to be honest, the strategy that most people use when they speak English, especially when they already are pretty advanced, is they just start speaking hoping for the best. That's it. Or they go to an English class hoping for the best. They don't have a learning strategy. They hope they will figure it out. They start speaking or they start delivering their presentation hoping for the best, hoping that they're going to figure it out. They're going to get to the point somehow, some way, and they're going to be able to answer the questions. There's no strategy. Self-correction should be the strategy if you really want to improve. And again, it's not about learning the new stuff. It's about unlearning the things that are holding you back, unlearning the patterns, the habits, the speaking behaviors that are holding you back. I told you about 4 things that I have to talk about, but I have been speaking for so long already. So I'm not sure if I should continue with the other 3. I'm just going to name them, but probably I will need to do another live to explain the 3. The number 2 on my list is comparison. People feel stuck because they constantly and continuously compare themselves to other people. However, the purpose of comparing yourself with others is very strange. People compare themselves with other learners only to find that they are worse, only to find that their skills are not as good, only to find that they are less than those advanced, beautiful people who speak so much better English. We're being taught to think less of ourselves because it's not very acceptable, I guess, to compare yourself with others and to say, look, I'm better. And this is what I do better. But it's healthy when you learn if you work on a team, it's healthy to understand what you're good at and what you're not so good at. It's healthy to see, okay, it's healthy to compare yourself with others, and you will always do this. We naturally do. You can't really stop this process. But it's unhealthy when you compare yourself with others only to find that you're less than. And I think it's healthier if you compare yourself with others to find what you're good at and what you're not so good at. Okay, this person has better pronunciation skills. I can learn from this person. This person speaks with more clarity. I can learn from this person. And I structure my message better. I'm not camera shy. I can help this person learn. If you work on the same team with other people, it would be a mistake to demand certain skills from other people if you see that they're obviously not good at accounting, for example, but you want them to do accounting. This strategy is going to fail. Absolutely. It's very important to teach learners, I should say. It's very important to teach learners to see both their failures and their successes. Somehow, students are only taught to see their mistakes. And then they get discouraged when they make mistakes. They get demotivated when they see their own mistakes. And as I said, when people make the same mistake over and over again, they simply get discouraged. But it's normal to be making the same mistake over and over again because you're learning. And it takes time for you to change your autopilot mode. Because everything you say, most likely you're in the autopilot mode. And somehow people are not shown how to measure their progress. And I believe that we need to help learners see their progress, measure their progress, understand their progress, and show them how to progress faster. There is no clear measurement system. At least I don't see it. That's why I had to create it for myself, and I'm sharing my system with other people. For me, it's very important to measure my success. The third one is, we already covered that. People are stuck because they are convinced that whatever they're doing is working, and sometimes they just need to stop doing whatever they're doing because it's not working. But first you need to recognize, you need to recognize those things. You need to understand that this is not working. And the fourth thing on my list is your autopilot mode. It is extremely difficult to teach somebody who already has a lot of experience to do something differently. If you want to learn skiing, let's say you're a good skier and you hired a coach because you want to ski better. It's going to be very difficult for you to unlearn your skiing skills, your style, and to learn to ski differently because you've been skiing for years, for decades maybe. And there comes the coach who says, look, your basic technique is just wrong. You have to learn it all over again. The position of your arms is wrong. You move your legs in the wrong way. Everything is wrong. Everything you're doing is just wrong. It's going to be very difficult for this person to unlearn and to learn to ski the new way. And it's going to be so much easier for somebody who has never skied in their life to learn from this coach and to learn to ski correctly from day one. People who make the same mistakes in their speech over and over again do so because they have experience, and it's not easy to ditch that experience and to forget that experience overnight. This is why if you're starting to learn, it's wrong to say if you're starting to learn, but if you're somebody who wants to improve their English skills and you understand that whatever you know is not enough, or whatever you know is actually doing more harm than good because you keep making the same mistakes and you keep running into situations where people do not understand you or where you cannot clearly express yourself. It means you keep repeating the same mistakes. Unfortunately, the more you speak the way you already speak, the more excellent, I would say, you're becoming at your mistakes. It's the best strategy to become excellent at your mistakes. If you never self-correct, and if you never pay attention to the things that you do on autopilot. Self-correction is a very powerful strategy. To self-correct, you need to know what you do on autopilot. To do so, you need to become very attentive to how you speak, how you sound, and how you think. That's why transcribing your messages and writing down your thoughts helps a lot. The purpose of writing down your thoughts and the purpose of transcribing your messages is not to find mistakes, and it's not to blame yourself for making many, many mistakes in every sentence. You will make many more mistakes, and you have to understand it's a natural process, because mistakes are always opportunities. You see a mistake, great, that's an opportunity for me to improve it. If you see a mistake and you do not take this opportunity, most likely you're going to repeat the same mistake because you didn't pay attention. Maybe you paid attention, but you paid attention only to your emotion related to this mistake, and you paid attention to the fact that it was a mistake, but you didn't really pay attention to the word that you used, and you didn't do the work to understand what word you should have used instead, because that's how you learn from mistakes. You take it and you ask yourself, okay, what's the opposite? This is not clear. What's the opposite? How can I make it clear? And you work with this opposite scenario. You repeat it, you internalize it, and you try your best to say it again, to say the correct option again. And it's very, very difficult. Trust me, to change your autopilot mode, to train it, is extremely difficult. Because you're not working on your language skills anymore. You are trying to change the way you process information and the way you produce your speech, the way you think, the way you communicate with yourself too. It's extremely difficult. This is why you do not really need a lot of flashcards. You do not need a lot of applications to learn English. All you need is you need to help yourself to become more attentive to how you speak. Writing is a fantastic tool. When you speak, you have no time to be attentive because you have to speak, you have to reply, you have to communicate, you have to explain, you have to answer questions, and you have to do your best. You have no time to think about grammar, about words, about sentence structure. This is why you would never do self-correction at the moment of speaking. We do self-correction after we're done speaking, when we look at the transcript of what we said, or when we listen to the voice message that we recorded, or when we sit down to edit our own text. This is how we learn to identify the thought patterns that we have, but we're unaware of them. This is how we learn to see how we build sentences. And this is how you learn to correct the mistakes. Dealing with mistakes is easy because all you need to do is you need to see the mistake and ask yourself, what's the opposite? See it, correct it, apply it. This is not difficult. What is difficult is to identify your own mistakes in your speech. This is why feedback is so important. When you are already a strong presenter, when you speak English very well, it's very difficult to see your own mistakes. It's difficult to give feedback to yourself. This is why working in a group helps a lot. Working in a strong group helps even better. Receiving human caring feedback on your work is priceless. You can only go so far alone. If you want to go further, you need to go together with other people. I will try to make more videos on stuckness and how to get unstuck so that we can consider the other 3 things. But what I have for you today and what I want to leave you with today is the idea that you need to learn to self-correct your speech and to self-correct your texts. I'll see you in the next videos. Thanks for watching.